Today we have a very special guest. His name is Dean Rogers. He's an ex-NFL San Diego Chargers player. He now owns and operates a seven-figure real estate investing business, and he owns over 8 figures of real estate. And he came all the way to Las Vegas just to share his origin story and how he got started so that you can learn from him today. So, Dean, I appreciate you being here, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, of course. Before we get into what you're doing now, because it's a lot of real estate,
Yeah.
I really wanted to learn about your origin story and how it started really from the moment, even before sports. Like, how did you even get into going into football? Like, was it just a passion from high school, or how did that all start?
Yeah. So growing up, I like to kind of give some context. I grew up in Central California, close to where you grew up. You grew up in Fresno.
Yeah.
I grew up in Visalia. So growing up in the Central Valley, for me, when I reflect back on like, well, what was there really to do? There really wasn't a whole lot. There was like going to school, going to church, playing sports, spending time with your family. So that was the little bubble that I was in, and sports was what I was really good at. And I wasn't really too talkative. I was actually kind of introverted growing up. So sports was like my way of talking. It was like my way of building friendships. It was where I felt comfortable and what I did good at. So naturally I made friends. I got a lot of, accolades and had a lot of success at a young age in sports, kind of a local sports hero kind of thing, being in the newspapers in high school and stuff like that. So for me, I just loved sports, and that's all I was focused on. And being in the Valley, the Central Valley in Central California, it was because it was in a bubble. Also, didn't get a lot of kind of spotlight or recruiting opportunities. And my high school coaches didn't make it that much easier because I had to almost fight to get some film tape to go put together some recruiting kind of game film type stuff. They only gave me you could pick 3 games, they said. I was like, what? I've been on varsity for years. Like, I should at least be able to get a full season. But anyways, so growing up in a small town, didn't really know what I wanted to be when I grew up. But whenever they would ask you in class, I'd always put professional athlete. And it's funny, I'm coaching my boys in sports now, and just this last weekend soccer game, I'm the assistant coach. The head coach, he was asking all the players, what do you want to be when you grow up? And every single one of them said professional soccer player. Like, whatever you're doing when you're a kid,
Yeah.
That's what you want to do when you grow up. So I was kind of guilty of that too, but in the back of my mind, I really wanted to be. But was it reality? Was it actually possible? I don't know. I don't think my thinking was too big back then. But, flash forward, going through high school, doing really well, played running back in high school, wanted to have the ball in my hands as much as possible. And so was, breaking records and had some letters coming in the mail. Being on the West Coast, you wanted to play for the Pac-10 schools. Wanted to play for Cal and UCLA and USC and the Oregon Ducks and all those type of teams. And I was getting looked at by the WAC. They've kind of broken up that league now, but Fresno State and Nevada Reno and La Tech. I was getting looked at by those schools, and no one really wanted to give me a scholarship. And I had a chip on my shoulder, man. I was really upset. I was like, what? Come on, where's the scholarships at? I really felt like I was good enough and passionate enough. But the one school that really gave me the most love, and only partial love, I got a partial scholarship coming out of high school. I had to earn a full scholarship, which, again, gave me another chip on my shoulder, but was UC Davis. And I thought to myself, okay, I could go walk on at Fresno State. That's the most they would give me attention. Or I could go get a scholarship at UC Davis. And I thought, well, after football, there'll be an after football at some point.
Right.
I think UC Davis will be better, at least for having a degree from there to help me for whatever job I get.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to Davis, and you know, had my whole journey there. To spare all the details, did well. They had a history of quarterbacks and tight ends going to the NFL, even despite the fact they were, a smaller school. And so that was, and I went to school there. I went to go play as a tight end. I wasn't fast enough for running back. So they're like, you're okay enough for tight end. So I came to love tight end, did really great at tight end. Became first team all league, first team all American, for the whole nation, and had a great career, had scouts looking at me. And so I was thinking to myself, okay, this could be a reality, but still had some doubts in the back of my head. Like, is it really possible though? Because still along the whole way, hadn't really been getting an overwhelming amount of like love from that standpoint. But sure enough, right out of college, finished my senior year, started training for the NFL, went back to Fresno, was training with other NFL guys and NFL hopefuls. And, man, the training was so good, dude. Like, I was in the best shape of my life. I mean, I was just like a machine, we trained for 4 to 6 hours a day. I was also doing speed training with, shout out to Jerome Avery from Lemoore, California, who is an Olympic gold medalist. Wow. As a sprinter, and he was helping train me to get my speed up too. And so I was ready to go and was talking to teams before the draft. And I was like, okay, this is getting pretty real. I was talking to like 12 different teams, getting personal calls from the recruiters. I was like, this is cool. And they were thinking about drafting me in the later rounds, 5th, 6th, or 7th. Draft day came and I didn't get drafted. I was like, oh crap, what happens next? Well, the lockout happened next, which happened in 2011, which means radio silence. You literally can't talk to anybody, all that kind of stuff. As soon as it lifted, I got the call from the Chargers, and me and my brother-in-law were like jumping in the living room like schoolgirls do. We were like just screaming and yelling. We were all hyped up. And next morning flew out there, and it was insane, man. It was like one of those things, just if you watch a movie, someone who just overnight something changes dramatically. That's what it was like. I mean, literally getting on a plane, rolling in. From the moment I got picked up in one of those, blacked out Escalades, rolling up to the facilities, and the veterans were actually already there because that's the way the lockout rules could work. The veterans could be there. So they were actually already there, and, they're taking me around, introducing me to everybody. Hey, what's up? This is Phillip Rivers. Hey, what's up? This is Antonio Gates. And overnight, now I'm in the locker room, teammates with these guys, go up to the general manager's office, sign a 3-year contract. And it was like, okay, this is kind of crazy, And I'll never, I mean, there's so much to unpack there, and I'll spare all the stories, but it was such a surreal experience because now you're just literally sitting next to people who make tens of millions of dollars, and we're playing as them on the video games.
Right.
I'd go train for 4 to 6 hours, and then my off time I'd get with my buddies. We'd be playing Madden, we'd be playing FIFA, and like out of nowhere now I'm like teammates with those guys. So, it was just wild. And so my whole story there was came in and just came out the gates firing, man. North Turner was the head coach. He moved me from tight end to fullback. Okay. And when I moved to fullback, I was like, you know what? I know I can do good at fullback. I'm going to give it everything I got. I knew I wasn't going to love fullback because you are like a battering ram.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But, their intent was to use me athletically, kind of like a hybrid position, move me around, stuff like that. So I'm like, all right, let me give it a try. I'm here. I'm not going to say, no, thanks, I don't want to play fullback.
Right.
Or, I wasn't I like to make the joke, I wasn't the second coming of Jesus. So I couldn't tell him, hey, you know what? Antonio Gates, sit on the bench.
Right.
It's my turn now. But came out the gates firing. I remember the first play, ran a counter and blew up strong safety, Pro Bowler Bob Sanders, who I'm sure will be a Hall of Famer. And Norv Turner threw his clipboard. He's like, there you go, Rodgers. And he was like all fired up. And I was like, holy crap, this is sick.
That's cool.
And it just was like that from that point forward. Like, as long as I went 100% all out and played my mind out, then like everything was great. And I was playing great. Norv Turner was stopping me in the hallways like, dude, you're going to have a long career. And I was like, holy shit. I'm like, yes, sir. I'll just keep doing what I'm doing, sir. And so it was like pretty overwhelming in a good way. And naturally, like everything that comes with that world is also pretty crazy. Mm-hmm. Everywhere you're going, people are screaming and wanting your autograph. And I'm like, all right, guys, I'm a nobody at this point, but still, like people are throwing themselves at you. You got literally supermodels walking into the hotel rooms looking for players. Like, wow. It's nuts, dude. You're getting onto the plane and they've got chefs that have like cooked and prepared meals on a huge plane that we're all on, and they're handing you envelopes of money to just spend however you want. Wow. And like the whole thing is just crazy. Mm-hmm. So it's hard not to want to be a part of that, because just you have access to just everything. As soon as you walk off the field, they've got chefs preparing food for you. You're getting your meals. You're getting your physical therapy. Like, my body had never felt better. Mm-hmm. I had never had that kind of training and physical therapy before. And so I felt like a machine. Now the catch was moving from tight end to fullback. And just, I had immediately felt the impact from those collisions. My body felt good from the neck down, but from the neck up, my head was feeling it, dude.
Oh, wow.
Like, way too much, to the point where you're looking around like, this isn't right. And you don't want to tell anybody. Right. Like, you're not going to say, hey, coach, my head's messed up. This is hurting my head. No, like, you're one in a million, maybe even a billion people to have that opportunity. So you're not going to go complain about it, but it really started to like weigh on me heavy. Wow. And I mean, it got to the point where I was literally like icing my head after practice. Wow. And, cause if you think about it, like at tight end, we're about this close to each other, maybe even a yard further away that we're going to block each other. And sure, we're going to hit like two Rams. There's going to be a collision, but imagine if you and I took 10 big steps backwards. Yeah. And we said, all right, you run as fast as you can, I'll run as fast as you can, and let's try to kill each other.
Yeah, and these are strong dudes. They're not...
Everyone is big, strong, fast. And so those collisions were insane. And when you're, running between the tackles, as they say, to do a run play, those gaps are so small, you're leading with your head. Mm-hmm. And so you could say, whoa, yeah, you're not supposed to hit with your head. You're supposed to hit with your shoulders. There's not always the opportunity to do that. Mm-hmm. And even if you do hit with your shoulders, you're still rocking your brain with those kind of collisions, So, yeah, man, I mean, it became so obvious to me that if I kept doing it, I was going to be a vegetable. Mm-hmm. And ESPN for that year just started about concussions. Started talking about concussions. I remember when I was training in Fresno, I'm sitting with Fresno State quarterback Ryan Colburn, who was also training, and we're sitting there playing Settlers of Catan. That's when I learned about Settlers of Catan, which is pretty fun. And ESPN's talking about it, and I'm like looking around, talking to Ryan. I'm like, ooh, that's they're talking about this now, huh? I'm like, okay. But it hadn't really been too big of a deal for me up to that point. And then Junior Seau killed himself that year. So to me, it was enough evidence to say, all right, you got your dream right here in one hand, you got your life in the other hand. Is it enough money to literally go through this in this position? If I had stayed tight end, I'm pretty certain I would have kept playing.
Oh, wow.
But at fullback, it was clear and obvious. So made the tough decision, man. I hung up the cleats and walked away.
How many years or how long was it of realizing that and going through that when you made the decision?
It was just 1 year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So the thought was, let me leave, completely, and not say, Coach, can I try tight end? Because I know it's like a big,
I know.
there's a bunch of people out there.
Yeah. I've had that question, and it was one of those things where I definitely thought about it. Like, all right, A, I could talk to the coach and see if I could switch positions. B, and by the way, I could have been a backup to Antonio Gates. I felt confident in my ability and seeing what else was there, like that I could. But maybe when I think back about it, I don't think I had enough voice. Again, like thinking back about how I grew up, I don't think I had enough of a voice to really speak up for myself. It was more like I would always speak through play.
Yeah.
I would speak with my actions. Yeah. And that's been a thing as I've grown up and matured. I've had to like learn how to find my voice because I've never had to really talk too much. Same thing with my business. Like it was more about like putting in the actions, putting in the hard work. Now, granted, I had to talk to sellers, but that was more of a script, right? It was something I trained and practiced on, but it wasn't so much voicing my opinion or my thoughts or my emotions. But that's one thing I potentially could have done. And the other question is like, well, could I or should I go to another team? I mean, I had other teams calling me after. Other teams were calling me like, hey, we're interested. Hey, what are you doing? And I said, no, I can't do it. And I knew even if I had gone to another position, I had already done enough. I had already shaken it up enough to where if I kept doing it, it wasn't going to help me.
Yeah.
You
knew the collisions were inevitable.
Yeah.
No matter what.
And hey, I loved the collisions before, but it just didn't involve so much to the head. But I had already done enough in that period of time to where I knew I had already done enough. Like this is it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Now, what was your mind going through when you said, yeah, I'm going to hang up the cleats? With you, I'm sure you said, think you have a wife at the time or a girlfriend at the time?
High school sweetheart, married a month out of college. Yeah.
So what was that thought like of, look, I was living this life for a year. Everything was so different. Was there fear? Was there, what am I going to do? Like, can you walk me through that?
Yeah. I'd like to say it was kind of blissful ignorance at the time. Like, I didn't know what the real world was like. You know, it was all make-believe and stories at that point. Like, once you become an adult and you're living outside of the home, because while I was training for the NFL, I was still living at home. And then, you know, with the NFL, I was living, in the compound basically. And so everything had been sheltered to that point. So the whole idea of going and working in the real world, I don't even know what that looked like. But I really did not take any second thoughts about it. I didn't think, hey, I'm going to spend time reflecting. I didn't think, hey, let me take a year to think what I want to do. Do I still want to play? I really didn't look back. And part of what had helped me make that decision, almost definitively what helped me, was my good college buddy, Ryan Troy from UC Davis. He called me. He's like, hey, I know you're done playing. What are you doing? And he's like, hey, I'm working for a software company, tech company in San Francisco. I could basically walk you in the door. I think it'd be a good fit for you. And he told me everything about it. I was like, dude, this sounds like exactly what I was wanting to do after football. Dude, can you set me up with an interview? And so he did. He walked me past all the red tape. Like these big corporate companies, usually it's like weeks and weeks of interviews. You got to come in, spend a whole 8-hour day interviewing. He literally walked me into one single meeting with the hiring manager, and that was it. And I laughed because the one person I met with before that was the recruiting manager, and she had me fill out the paperwork, like, what's your prior work history? I'm like, NFL. What's your prior salary? I'm like, $1.3 million. And she's like, oh, okay. I'm like, so does that help me with what I'm? She's like, no, you're getting dog shit. and that's I got a $65,000 salary.
Gotcha.
That's a big change.
Yeah.
And living in the San Francisco Bay Area, needless to say, money dried up really fast. Yeah. So I got started working. I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was a thrill. Like, I would commute to work. I was, bushy-tailed, bright-eyed, young professional starting. I had so much energy. Like, I was built for war. Like, I would train hours and hours every single day. I would be tested mentally to be prepared for games with 60, 80,000 people, stadiums. This was a joke. Like, this was so easy. This was showing up, getting at a desk, and typing on a keyboard. And so I would laugh how easy it was. But I put in a lot of effort, and I imagined that I was going to get a nice pay raise after that first year. That's what I thought based on the level of effort I was giving. But they gave me a big whopping $2,000 salary boost, a good, slap on the back, good work, good effort. And now I was making $67,000. And at that moment, I just, like, my body felt sick. Yeah. And I thought to myself, this is not going to get me back to that dream lifestyle. Because I walked away from the dream, the childhood dream. And how else was I going to get back there? And I just remember thinking to myself that I just couldn't fail. Like, this was starting to feel like a failure to me. And I was so scared of the idea of not being successful and not being, like, reaching my potential and just being, like, not accomplishing anything. And it weighed so heavy on me that, like, I thought to myself, well, what else am I good at? I had no skills at that point, no skills. The only real skill I had is just putting in effort and hard work ethic and discipline, And so I thought, well, what else do I like? Only thing I could think of, literally, it just completely blank up there. Only thing I could think of was, well, I like real estate. I remembered watching TV shows with my parents at home on the couch. Usually they were real estate shows on HGTV. About flipping houses or love it or list it, stuff like that. I'm like, maybe I'd be a realtor, And then I thought, well, I remember the late night Dean Graziosi TV shows, infomercials at like 1 a.m. after I'd be done playing video games. I'd like see them on. I'm like, oh, that looks interesting. So I got on Google. I typed in how to get started in real estate, and I found Sean Terry's Flip to Freedom podcast. And I was like, oh, I'll check this out. And I listened to it, and it was, hey, this is Sean Terry, Flip to Freedom podcast. And I was like, oh, okay, he's got some good energy. And then he was like talking about his background. That's how he opened every podcast. And then he'd talk about a certain topic or bring on like some sort of case study about one of his students. I'm like, holy crap, if this pest control guy who was making $30,000 a year can make several $100,000 in a year, like, holy crap, I think I could do this too. And so I just became obsessed. This is the vehicle for me. This is what can do it. Real estate investing, real estate's, you can make a lot of money doing it. So I just started following what he was saying in the podcast. Again, blissfully ignorant. I didn't let fear or doubts or anything. I was just like, oh, okay, I'll do this. I'll search for properties this way, and if I talk to somebody, I'm going to say what he told me to say. And I just took notes and applied it, took notes, and all I was doing was listening to that free podcast. And I did my first deal in 3 months from that first Google search of just taking massive action. And the fun story behind that was I was listening so much to what he was saying. I was actually marketing in Arizona, which is Sean Terry's market, and was doing the strategy he was doing at that very time that he was saying was working, which was online auctions
Okay.
and HUDHomestore.com. And I would bid on these properties that he was bidding on too, and following exactly how I was doing it, and got a property under contract, followed the steps to find a buyer, wasn't having luck. And I was smart enough somehow to go to his website and submit it like I was a seller on Sean Terry's website.
Nice.
And his acquisition guy called me, and I told him the whole story, and he's like, oh, okay, I'll connect you with Sean. He could probably sell it. So, and he did. He called me on his cell phone, and I was like a fanboy. I was like, oh, shoot, Sean Terry's calling me. And he's like, oh, yeah, man, we'll get that sold. Yeah, that's no problem. So he got it sold it for $12,000. We split it. I made $6,000. And I remember being at the office and just being like, I just like yelled out loud. Cool. I was just, and one of my buddies who knew what I was doing, he's like, you just closed the deal, didn't you? I was like, yeah. I'm like, yes, the money just hit my bank account. So I was stoked. I believed it, proof of concept, and just started taking more action from there.
That's awesome. And I think a skill that you don't even realize you might have had was like real coachability. Like you've been having coaches for football for so long that when someone that is deemed a professional and authority, you're like, yeah, I just do the steps and it should work. And you can just do it and execute. Now, I'm curious about the transition of going into the real estate investing, because were you still in the Bay Area at the time?
Yeah.
What was the transition like for the job that you had at the 67,000 versus the real estate? Were you still doing it full time and then doing this on the side? Because you have family or the wife? Okay.
Yeah. Things are too expensive to not still work that main job. So every second I had, man, lunch breaks, on the commute to and from work, after work, every extra second while people are just BSing and, doing water cooler talk, every single second I had available outside of the normal, job responsibilities, I was researching on what I was going to do for marketing. The marketing I was doing, I would be calling back sellers from my Google Voice number I was using. Like that's how I did it for years, and that's just what I had to do, and that's what helped me just like inch along and keep moving along. Now it hasn't been all rainbows and butterflies. I have made some big mistakes. And they were small mistakes that turned into big losses. You know what I mean? And I think they were really, really, really important learning lessons for me to understand how to avoid it and also how to handle adversity like that. Because, I mean, dude, like you said, the whole coachable thing, playing sports, you handle adversity every single day. Every single practice, every single game, you're doing good things and bad things. And I think it helped prepare me for being an entrepreneur, because every single day you have ups and downs. Like you could wake up fired up, and then you start working and you get an email and it's like, oh no. And you're like down in the dumps, and then you get another call comes in, it's a lead and it's a hot deal. And now you're fired up. Like your day could go up and down in just one day. And same thing with like a practice or a game. You could be watching game film, 5 plays in a row, you could do really well. The next play, you took a wrong step, you slipped and fell, you dropped the ball, you missed a block. Like there's constant criticism that you get, and you're under a lot of pressure. So I think I was mentally, physically prepared for that. But still, you're a human. Like you're gonna make mistakes, and the repercussions, you're gonna have a human reaction to it. And usually money, financial mistakes and losses, those hurt, man.
Yes.
Even saying that right now to you, like my body feels some of those scars.
My stomach turns. I thought of the previous thing.
My stomach, my stomach. I get like my body tingles a little bit because it's so uncomfortable. And I think that's one of the things that can hold people back is the concern of risk of investing. But I would say that almost every time the mistakes that you make, the losses that you could potentially have are because of your own mistakes, right? And I have a laundry list of what you can do to avoid that. But man, after my first year, to give you the cliff notes on my story, after the first year, I was now wholesaling back in Central California and was selling a couple properties to the same guy. And he's like, hey, you're really good at finding deals. Do you want to flip houses together? And I was like, well, that's kind of what I was wanting to do next. So yeah. And so we started flipping houses, but he's like, it's kind of slowing down here in the Valley. Do you want to go flip in Arizona? I know you were doing some deals there. I was like, yeah, I still got some contacts. Let's do that. And so we bought 6 houses in a month, and that's pretty fast.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's pretty fast. And 4 of them worked out. The other 2 were big losses, $100,000 loss.
Gotcha.
Because of all the things that could go wrong. We rushed the deals. The comparable sales that we use on this side of the street were really good. On the side of the street our house were, not so good. Contractor was a total crook, did terrible work, had to redo it all, left the job with some of our money. Like everything that happened that could have gone wrong happened on both those projects, ended up losing $100,000. I was not in the position to lose $100,000 at that point in time. And so that was a huge setback. I had to dig really deep. I had to go get more deals to basically pay for my loss. And that was like a really defining moment early on of like, oh, this is the real world. If you're not careful, if you don't pay attention and do some obvious due diligence, like just making sure you're not just trusting other people, the world can bite you back. And so I had to mature pretty quick and take that dose of reality. But that person I partnered with ended up becoming my business partner to this day. Wow. And we got after it. And he was already experienced. He was already successful. And he just wasn't doing any of the off-market deals. So that's where I came in, brought that, and we started buying back in the Central Valley. First year, 20 flips. Next year, 40 flips, 60 flips, 80 flips. Then we get to 100 flips. And right around that same time, I guess I needed to learn another big lesson. I'm now living back in San Diego, and someone in that circle was like doing deals with other people. And he was in the circle of trust of people that I knew investing down there. And the short story is he presented a deal. I was kind of hesitant, kept presenting it. I was like, well, if all this is true, all the numbers are accurate, then I want to do it. I want to make that money. I was focused on the deal and chasing getting that money rather than paying attention to the obvious due diligence, like making the phone call and verifying the information that was provided was accurate. Because this was, unfortunately, to make it more complex, this was a new construction deal.
Oh.
There's a lot more involved in a new construction project.
Yeah.
There's all the plans and permits that have to be approved, designed by civil engineers and architects and approved by the city. You got to have your financing lined up. All that was set up and ready to start the project, but it actually wasn't. So I had a nightmare problem I had to fix. I ended up losing $187,000. And that was really painful. And, you know, it was more so just like the embarrassment and shame of like being scammed.
Right.
And this guy had scammed millions of dollars from other people. And but it was literally, I was one phone call away, one obvious phone call away from being like, hey, this so-and-so said this was all ready to go. Is that true? No, we're nowhere close. He hasn't paid the bills. This is nowhere ready to start. It would have been one phone call that would have prevented me from that pain and having to go through all that. And that was really important for me to learn that lesson to make sure, like, hey, if you're getting into something new and you're doing it with someone else, you just got to make a couple extra calls.
Right.
Just make sure. I mean, I get a deal that comes across my desk now that's my bread and butter, a single family house in Central California. I mean, I can buy that with my eyes closed and do those deals all day long. But it was something different and new. and I blindly trusted the other person, and it just bit me super hard.
Yeah, I know there's that saying, trust but verify. Mine is just verify. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even,
Yeah.
don't trust, just verify
The
everything.
part that's even more sickening, it's funny that you just said that saying. This person would say that saying over and over and over again, and would say how it was important to do that.
Right.
But he was the wolf in sheep's clothing.
Wow.
It was disgusting to know that he would say that all the time, and that's what he was actually doing to millions of dollars of other people's money. Ugh. But those were the two big lessons. I had a couple other flips that I've lost some money on, but I can tell you at this point, I've done over 500 deals, made millions of dollars, have a rental portfolio, as you said, 8 figures, and coaching students now on exactly what we're doing in our business, because we're doing 100 deals a year now. Right. And I'm just so happy with where things are at. It's been a journey. It's the overnight success. Right. I've been out of social media for years. I'm now on the social media bandwagon because I know the power of it, and I know how many more relationships can be made that are just fun and make the business more fun by doing it. But for I had the football mentality for the first 5 or 6 years of just my head being down and just, I got to do the work.
Right.
I'm not looking for help. I got to do the work. But I missed out on the opportunity. The lesson to the listeners is start networking from day one. Mm-hmm. Don't be afraid to share your story that you're just getting started. We all want to be successful from day one. Mm-hmm. But the best lesson you can be or can understand is be yourself from day one. It is good and okay to say, hey, I'm the broke young hustler who's just getting started. Or, hey, I'm the broke older hustler. I maybe had some successes or had some failures, or I'm getting started later in life. Like, I'm broke. I'm ready to put in the work, and I'm ready to meet people, add value, and people are attracted to that energy.
Right.
But if you're trying to fake it the whole time, then people will see that as disingenuous, and they're like, all right, that person doesn't really have it. But if you're being honest, people are like, oh, that person's authentic.
Right.
Like, I want to actually help that person. Right?
Yeah. What I don't want to gloss over this at all, because you mentioned you lost the 2 deals at the 100K or so in Arizona. You lost the 1 deal in Central Valley, the new construction.
That was in San Diego.
Oh, okay, San Diego.
Yeah.
So you for those losses, you said you weren't in the position to lose.
Not at the time.
I don't know how vulnerable you want to get, but I guess where were your cash reserves at?
Yeah.
And what was the loss like? Like, what did you do?
Yeah. So the first loss I had, didn't have the money, like I said, living in the Bay Area, $67,000 salary at that point. Money dried up, man, and money was tight. And I love being honest about it because it's important for people to hear it, because there's going to be more people that are in the position where they just don't have anything. Mm-hmm. I had, probably $15,000 of credit card debt at that time. My monthly bills were pretty much matched even to my monthly income. Mm-hmm. And so anything extra, and of course I made some silly, like most young people do. Oh, I want to go to Hawaii. Sure. I'm going to put it on the credit card. So now, boom, there's another $1,000 that pops up on there. It's like, well, Hawaii was fun. Let's go again in 2 months. Boom. We're going to go to Hawaii again. So there's some self-inflicted, wounds there. But I remember during that time, me and my wife had a Target credit card, $500 on it. We used that to buy groceries for several months because it wasn't the money in the bank that we had to do it. It wasn't the other credit cards that we had that were pretty much maxed out. It was a Target credit card that was going to pay our food. Mm-hmm. And that was where we were at. That was the reality, man. And that was hard. It was hard for like my own personal pride to go through that. But you know what? At the same time, I knew what I was working towards, and I knew I wasn't going to frickin' be a victim, and I wasn't going to quit. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you cuss on this show.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. But motherfucker, nobody was going to hold me back. Right. You know what I mean? Nobody. And there was too many times where I was overlooked before playing sports. I was never the fastest, the strongest, maybe growing up when I was younger. But as I moved up in the higher levels, never the fastest, never the strongest, never the tallest, never the most athletic. I always had to work harder and put in the work consistently to be like, oh, he can play. He's an athlete. This is a humble brag right now. Just, was it yesterday? No, it was 2 days ago, Wednesday. I went to 24-hour fitness. Pickup basketball is my passion now.
Nice.
That's where I feel like in a bliss, you know. I got the athletic, competitive aspect going. Was there, hadn't played for 2 months since my last baby was born. The last time I played, it was actually the night my baby was born, my fourth baby. And hadn't played, was rusty. My body was hurting. I told myself I wouldn't play. But naturally, someone asked me, hey, you want to play? I was like, yep.
Absolutely.
And so I'm shooting around, and we're playing games. And, man, I was on fire, tearing them up. I'm not playing. And then another guy shows up. He had an NFL shirt on. He's a big old dude. I'm like, hey, what team do you play for? And he's like, oh, I'm a free agent right now. I'm like, oh, I used to play for the Chargers. He's like, oh, no way. So we were just talking it up. He's like, oh, my brother plays for the Chargers right now. And the short story was I was dicing everybody up, and he's like, dang, man, you're super athletic. I was like, hell yeah. But, you know, I've put in the work, and I play with passion, both on the court and in life too. So yeah, those times were really hard, man. Those times were really hard. The other time, cash reserves, as we were doing 20 flips at a time, I was in a cycle of being broke, dude.
Yeah.
Like doing deals, making good money, but broke. It was crazy. And I finally had to figure that out, which I'll get to, but I was broke constantly. A deal would close, money would come in, immediately go back out. Now, part of our problem at that time and why we were feeling cash broke was because we were doing the volume play. We were all about number of deals rather than the quality of the deals. So each deal we were taking down, we would do it on paper to make 15 to 20 grand. And so naturally, us pushing to get more deals, the deals would naturally on paper be 15 to 20, not 40, 50, 60, $100,000 deals that we're doing now. And so they were skinny deals. And then when they would go over time, over budget, now we're making 5, 8, 10. When you account for your overhead and all that stuff, how much money did you make?
Yeah.
Not a whole lot.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot to be bragging, right? So the money always being out and being in that position when that deal, you know, it all fell apart, didn't have the money. It was all out in deals. And so between a couple of those events at that point in time, it was like, okay, I need to start buying rentals for wealth. I need to start wholesaling the deals. We need to do only a couple flips at a time because that's what we can manage. And the rest will wholesale. So we pivoted all of that. And I mean, business has been amazing. Cash flows way better, you know, and money in the bank way better. The actual profit per deal that we do, dramatically higher. And so it's some of those lessons were really important to figure out what actually works in our business and how we're set up. And we're really good at finding deals. We're really good at managing a couple of projects, and we're good problem solvers, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's been great, man.
That's funny. I can pinpoint where I'm at in your story. It's the transition of like, why do I feel so broke flipping?
Yeah.
And then now it's like the transition of I should probably wholesale, have the rentals, and then find other ways. That's why I'm pushing hard on social too, is have a non-real estate income. So that like when the recession, this was a learning experience for me of like, man, like these deals that were good deals are not good deals anymore.
I
know. And I also find it fascinating that in real estate, in your business, in our business, that if something goes bad, we lose money. I guess the solution is find another deal to take on more risk if it's a flip or wholesale, whatever it is. So what's the next step for you then? I appreciate you sharing all the
Yeah.
vulnerability. That
Yeah.
that helps me, and I know it'll help the listeners.
I think it's really important,
Yeah.
man. You got to be honest and real because, if you just look on the surface, it's like, oh my gosh, look at all these great things. But dude, I had to push through some adversity.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just like, oh, you had a bad deal, write a check for it. It was like, no, you had to fight for a year and a half of your life dedicated just to fix that one problem.
Yeah. And that's also, it's super humbling
Yeah.
because I've gone through stuff recently with these losses. Not 100,000 loss, but like the losses, I'm like, did I just waste 6 months flipping these things?
Right.
And just like, am I a failure? Like and I teach people from my perspective what I can teach the beginners, but then it's like, man, like what is this? Like, do I even deserve to be doing this? Because I'm
Yeah.
wasting this time. So you go through a lot of emotions for sure.
Oh, yeah.
So what's the next step for you for this upcoming year? What's your focus?
Yeah. So the light bulb really went off for me with networking, with social media, going back to 2020. So in 2020, just before 2020, I realized, you know what? I've been like the Wizard of Oz. I've been the man behind the curtain. I live in San Diego. Some people know of me, but a lot of people actually don't know me because I've been virtual since day one. Even though I've been investing in my backyard, I mean, the people that know me are from sports or from school, not the investing community.
Right.
So I thought, let's start a meetup. So we started a meetup February of 2020. March 2020 rolls around, and we've got our first meetup we do February. We have about 100 people come. It's in Visalia. Really great turnout, great energy. I'm like, this is it. This is where we're meeting people. Mm-hmm. We're opening up new opportunities for new deals, new relationships. Who knows what's going to happen? But this is exactly what we wanted. We wanted to bring value to other people, share what we're doing, how we're doing it. Let's see what happens. Mm-hmm. Let's just give as much value, see what the world brings back, right? Have the abundance mindset. And March came around, the world shut down. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what do I do now? Only thing I used social media at that point, and I probably had 1,500 followers on Instagram, is me going to the beach with my kids. Like, people wouldn't know I was investing.
Right.
So like, I'm going to start talking about my deals, what we're doing, what's working, how much money we're making. I want to get people's attention. And then I want to share how can I help you, right? So the short version of that story is I started sharing, hey, if you've got a deal or a lead, you need help, our team will literally do everything. We'll call the seller, we'll negotiate the deal, go on the appointment, get pictures. We'll get that deal under contract at the best possible price. We're really good at this. We've got the best cash buyers list. Mm-hmm. If we're going to wholesale this deal, we'll sell it at top dollar. We're going to maximize that deal, right? You might have messed around with it and made a little bit, but we're going to maximize that deal. We'll do all the work, handle escrow, make sure the deal goes through. We'll split it 50-50. Mm-hmm. We're going to try to give as much value as possible. So started doing deals with people and sharing the results. And then more people started coming, right? And so I started to understand this game of social media, like share with the world what you're doing and people are going to be interested. Mm-hmm. And so I really took off from doing that. And the full calendar year of 2021, we had $1 million of revenue just from that.
That's
doing
awesome.
deals with other people. And I made the joke, I love sending friends money. Mm-hmm. And you have the shirt,
Yep.
I said, well, let's call it friends with benefits, right? You're in the friend zone right now, mm-hmm. but hey, if we do a deal together, this is friends with benefits, man. Right. Like, this is cool. We made money together.
Right.
That's a big deal, right? Like thousands of dollars. Mm-hmm. And so that became fun, made the t-shirts and started marketing that a little bit more, understood that, the power of it. And so business has been great with that. And that kind of unfolded to people asking for coaching and mentoring. Now that I'm sharing about the results that we're getting, they're like, hey, do you do coaching? And I had some good friends kind of push me off the ledge and say, hey, you should get into coaching. Now, around the same time, 2022, with the meetup and bringing it back to life in person again, I noticed that myself and two other people were hosting meetups, but we weren't collaborating. So in the Central Valley, we have Jason Pritchard, who has a meetup, and Stratton Brown. And so I got us all together in December of 21 and said, yo, we should like coordinate. We should cross promote. We should co-host some events. Let's try to bring more value and more people together in the Valley. And we're all in the same mindset, abundance mindset, giving value, expecting nothing in return. Hey, the world, the law of reciprocity, however you say that correctly, it'll just happen, right? You don't know when or how or what it looks like, but just go all in. And so with that belief, I mean, 2022, we had a lot of great co-hosted events. We threw a big event in November where we had 600 plus people. We had Pace and Jameel and Henry Washington. And it's been so much fun, man. And it's incredible the doors have started opening. So I started the coaching program. I'd like to believe what I'm doing works. Well, I know it works because I'm doing it and I'm getting, we're doing 10 plus deals a month. But to see it work for other people is really humbling and fulfilling too.
Yeah.
And so to see the coaching students that have come in, taken the action, that's the biggest part. You can have all the answers, but if you don't take action, you won't get results. The ones that are taking action, getting results is super fulfilling. And I just feel like the sky's the limit. The goal with that is to build a community of people that are getting success and just help strengthen the community even more. And I've seen other people do it well. And so that's what my mission and goal is too.
I love that, man. It's giving back because you know how hard it is to get there.
It's really hard.
Yeah. So how can people help you? The people listening now, if they want to reach out, if they want to be like, I like Dean, I want to help this guy.
Yeah.
This is your chance to pitch whatever you want to pitch.
Okay.
How can they help you?
Yeah. So the best way for people to get a hold of me is just to go to deanrogers.com. There's a big connect button at the top. You'll see all my social media stuff. So Instagram is Dean Rogers Real Estate. YouTube is youtube.com/Dean Rogers. But you can find out all the information about the coaching program on deanrogers.com. And the biggest thing for me that I always tell people on any type of podcast or social media is whether you join the coaching program or not, that's a whole separate thing. But you should reach out. There's so many opportunities that just start by just taking that action to reach out. Mm-hmm. That's one of my favorite things to do now is to see how many people I can connect with. Yeah. And it could be at a meetup, it could be on social media, but like if there's somebody doing something that aligns with what I like I want to reach out and just say hi. Mm-hmm. And so I encourage everybody that listens to this to go on like Instagram, right? Send me a DM. Say what's up. Hey, I heard you on the Justin Harong show. Like, what's going on? What's up? And let's just start a conversation, right? And if you're watching this and you want to get started in real estate, you want to crack through, you want to create consistency in your business and literally follow what we're doing, you can join the coaching program too. All the information's on there about that. But it's all about starting with connecting with people because that's where incredible things can happen.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, dude, if you had also, last thing, if you had one message you just wanted to share with the world, doesn't have to be business, doesn't have to be real estate, just one message that you really want people to know and to take action on or understand, what is your message?
Yeah. Man, the thing I always go back to is you're going to know. If you're listening to this, there's a good chance you don't want to be just average. There's a good chance you're out there searching for something more. Okay. Now, it's not to say there's anything wrong with being average. Not to say there's anything wrong with wanting to be comfortable at 6 p.m. after the clock stops and you want to watch Netflix until you go to bed. That's your choice. It's your life. But chances are, if you're listening to this, you're searching for something more. Yeah. You've got more in you. The biggest thing that you got to do is you got to get around other people like you, which I would assume are people that are wanting more. Mm-hmm. Now, how can you do that? Well, we both love real estate. Mm-hmm. For me, that's easy. There's real estate investing meetups. Okay, those are the best opportunities to get around other people that are like you, that are maybe just getting started, or people that are successful. And you're going to be around that energy. That energy is going to rub off on you. You're going to gain information. You're going to gain relationships. But the cheat code for today, right now, to speed up your success is not to do it by yourself. It's not. It's too hard to do it by yourself. There's too many people on this earth. There's too much competition, right? But when you use the right mindset, there's not competition. There's opportunity for collaboration, for partnerships. Now the game gets fun.
Right.
Now there's opportunity everywhere.
Right.
If you're thinking like everything's competitive, then things are hard. The thing is, everything is an opportunity to collaborate, to partner with people. Now it's a game. Now this is fun. And so the best way to do that is to get around other people that have that same mindset. And for me, it's real estate meetups.
Yeah.
It's joining a coaching program or finding a mentor, because you're going to speed up your information. You're going to gain access to resources, to tools. That's the way to do it. So for anybody who's listening to this that's wondering, like, what should I be doing? My message is go get out there and meet other people and network with them intentionally from day one right now. Don't wait anymore. You got to take action, because time's ticking,
Yep.
right? And if you've got that feeling inside of you, chances are you need to jump.
Yeah.
You need to do something, because if you're gonna build the muscle to push that down and repress that feeling, then you're gonna get that muscle pretty strong, and chances are you're gonna look back, you're 80 years old, and you're wondering, why didn't I do it?
Right.
Do it now. Just jump and go.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I love that message. And it's funny how you described what you just described, because you almost described it, and this is how I felt, because I came from not professional sports, but just sports. I like sports. You described the game of entrepreneurship as an actual game, because that's how I felt when I first got into real estate. I felt like, wow, like everyone got paid. It felt like I was on a basketball team. Like, yeah, but just like, it was like I was the point guard of it. I was making sure everyone got paid. The attorney, the insurance, the tenant, like all these people. I was like, this is kind of cool. So I love the message. I love that you came here, dude. I appreciate everything.
Yeah,
and I'll make sure to have all your links. So if you want to reach out to Dean and help him out, I'll put all of his links in the show notes below. But thank you so much for listening. Dean, thanks for being on, man.
Thanks for having me, man.